on, guys? Y'all ready for part 2 of the Husqvarna 235E? For you guys that's just tuning in to part 2, there's a part 1. And we'll go back and watch that. It's the diagnosis of how to diagnose it, to find out what's wrong with it first. So we'll watch that video first. And for you new people tuning in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the little bell for future notifications for part 2 and possibly a part 3 for adjusting the carburetor and tuning it in. I'm going to try to show y'all how to tune the carburetor on part 3 by ear, by listening to the saw. For part 2, let's get started on getting this carburetor off. Alright, take the air filter off. If you look, that's not the screws for the carburetor. They're on down underneath this plastic piece and you can't get to it. So you got to start taking all this off, your handle off. Right here, right here. Take all that loose and then go from there. Then but there's this cover right here. Can't really see it, but you'll see it once I take all this off. Get your hand cut wide open doing that. Let's just take this bar and chain off. Get it out of our way. Chain brake's on. This won't come off. Chain brake's locked. Pull that back. I don't see nothing wrong with it, really. Not at this moment, anyway. All right. Some of this stuff is really tedious. You don't want to cooperate half the time. Pull that little throttle lever out. just like that. We got it to where we can get these bolts out. This one right here, and then this little cover will slide this way. And that looks like a small Torx. Oop. Take this little screw out right here. Once your little screw comes out, you can slide this cover that way. Slide that off. Now you can get to your carburetor bolts. And years ago, they wasn't like that. This right here was tilted at an angle a little bit, and you could get to your screws, or these screws here for your carburetor were up here, not down here. So that is 8mm or 5/16. They'll both work. I have a nut driver in my toolbox set up just for these, where I don't have to hunt that socket down. Pull this carburetor off of here. Just like that. We need this Torx back to get this. This piece right here is your keel. It's just this little piece that goes right in there. That just slides right out. You just slide it, push back on it just a little, and then slide it out. Just like that. And then this, you can take this off too. Your on-off switch. Get it out of your way. It just slides off of that little bracket. Push it up here out of the way. And then this comes off. And there's your carburetor. Whoop whoop. And it will just slide forward. You might have to break it loose, but it will just slide forward. It's on that intake pretty good. So just take something, screwdriver or something, and just be easy and just get it loose. And then slide it out. Throttle lever. This is your choke lever. You can take all that off if you want. Lay it down. Now, before you disconnect these fuel lines, turn this thing up on its side, on this side. Gas tank up. And open this gas tank just a little. Just to relieve any pressure off of it. And then pull your fuel lines off. Once you get them off, turn this thing back up. You kind of have to play with this. If it's closed all the way, pressure's in there, gas is shooting out. If it's open too much, you'll be getting gas pour out of your tank. And while you're right here, you want to look at these fuel lines. Sometimes even looking at them, it's hard to tell. They could have a little pinhole in them, and then you're going to have trouble with air leak. getting started in there. Well, here's our carburetor. It's a Zama W33C 152A. It says Zama on it. And we're going to take this apart and rebuild it. So we need a Phillips screwdriver. First thing I like to do, see how dirty it is? It's like stuff all in it and all over it and all over back down there. I want to clean that. So I'm going to clean it and then I'll come back. And when you're cleaning these, I do not like to use carb cleaner. I just use some kind of degreaser or WD-40 and clean them. Carb cleaner is for a car carburetor. It's not made for cleaning these small engine carburetors. So I don't like to use it. Some people do. I prefer not to. So let me go air dry this. I've cleaned it already. I just used some degreaser and cleaned it up. Alright, got it all blowed out and dried up. Now, next thing we want to do is just take this all off, these 4 screws. Most of the other carbs will have 4 on this side and 4 on the other side. Well, this one, all the diaphragms, you got 2 in between here and then 2 in between here. It's a gasket, diaphragm here, and a gasket and a diaphragm here. So let's take this thing apart. Now, if you're new to this, you want to take note of how these gaskets and these diaphragms come off. Most of the time it's a gasket and then a diaphragm, a gasket and then a diaphragm, but sometimes they'll change it on you. So you want to watch how you take it apart. Especially nowadays, the way they're changing all this stuff. Now this one wants to come apart here. And if you look, this is your diaphragm. It's sitting on top of a gasket. If you pull that off, there's a gasket underneath that. So on this side, it's going to be a gasket, then a diaphragm. There really wasn't nothing wrong with these diaphragms. Usually they're hard. This one's not hard. But we're going to put a new kit in it anyway. You don't take it apart. It could have a pinhole in it or anything, and you'll waste your time taking it apart, putting it back together, and then you get it back together and it still won't run. And then be careful. Take your razor knife and just kind of, you don't have to have all that off, but don't be too mean, aggressive with it. Just kind of rub it. Get that gasket, old gasket off of there. Sometimes just using the blade flat against it like that and just doing this will work better than trying to do this. And you'll put less gouges in your carburetor by laying it flat. That looks pretty good. It's clean. Alright, now we can take this other piece apart. And I've put a screw in there to get this piece off. So take your screwdriver, take that little screw out, just like that. Hey, I see some water. That's got water in it. That gas tank's got water in it. Can you see that water drop on the bench? Right there. That come out of that carburetor. So that tells me that gas tank's got water in it. So the owner of this saw, if you're watching this, make sure you pour your gas can out and get fresh fuel. Otherwise, when I get this thing going good, you're going to fill it back full of water. Clean this up. Put them little lines in that, and it's a little bit difficult to get around it, but you just have to play with it and have a little patience and take your time with it. Just take your time and give you an excuse not to go out and cut with it. You can tell your wife it's broke. I can't cut that tree down. The saw won't start. I got it apart in the garage. See? I just got you out of going to work. The screen is in this. You've got a screen inside there. Can't see it, can you? There you go. Inside there, that's a screen in there. It's like a little filter. You want to replace that too. It comes in the kit. I think the kit was a RB 149, I believe. It's 129 or 149. But it comes with that kit, with the kit. Now we want to work on this a little bit. Right here's your adjustment screws. Got your low speed here and your high speed here. And well, if you can't tell, if it doesn't say like L and H, the L will always be the closest one to the chainsaw intake. So if the saw's over here, where my left hand is, and this carburetor is mounted to that saw, that's your low speed, and that's your high speed. But we want to take these out. And what I like to do, normal setting them is a turn and a half out for each one, sometimes 2 turns. And I have seen them where it's more than that, especially on like a steel, and it'll tell you, it'll be like it'll tell you like 2.5 turns out. But what I like to do is I get my tool. That is the splined tool. I got like 100 of these. You got single D, double D, double D, Pac-Man, and here's splined. It's, I don't know if you can see it in there, but it's splined like a spline on an axle. And what I like to do is put the handle where it's like straight up and down with the carburetor like that. Put my finger on top, thumb on the bottom, and I'm actually going to turn this in to see how many turns it's out from the factory. So when I turn it and my finger goes to the bottom, that is a half a turn. So half, 1 half. It almost turned 2 turns. So we'll say 1 3/4 out. Now I can take this out. So my low speed is 1 3/4 turn out. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to show you why I take these out. Some people won't take them out, but I take them out. Now we're going to go to high speed. And we're going to do the same thing. It's lined up pretty close. So now we're going to go in a half, 1 half, and it was about the same, about 1 3/4 turns. So that's what we're going to start with when we fire this thing up, is 1 3/4 turns. And it'll probably be really, really close. And I'm going to show y'all how to tune this thing without a tack. And I've done this for years, so I can get it pretty doggone close without a tack. You just have to know what to listen for. Now what I like to do is, this is where my WD-40 comes in handy. I'm going to spray WD-40 in that hole and push the straw all the way in there. Just like that. And when I push this button, usually there's 3 holes inside the throttle side. This one has 3. Let me let that focus. I don't know if y'all can see that or not, but right back on this side, inside there's some little tiny holes. Can't get it to focus in on it. You can see one right there. Looks like a little piece of dirt in there. But there is 2 more in there. There's 3 of those little holes. When you spray that WD-40 in that low speed, that WD-40 should spray out of those 3 holes. And I can't really show you that on camera because I'd get WD-40 all over my camera, but we'll put that in there. And you're gonna, while you're spraying it in there, you're gonna look to make sure it's spraying, it's coming out of all 3 of those holes on your low speed. And it is. It's coming out really good. If it don't come out of there, usually there's a Welch plug. This one happens to be right here, that allows you to get to those 3 holes. But it could be clogged up somewhere between here and there. You have to get some wire and poke through and all that. But since this one's clear, most of the time they are clear. And then when you do your high speed, it's just a big jet right in the center of the carburetor. If you look down inside there, it gets smaller, and right in that smaller area there is a jet in there that WD-40 will spray out of. So you go to your high side, spray it in there, see it come out. Well, that tells you all that's working. Let me see if I can get that low speed on camera. I just hit my camera, didn't I? If you'll watch that low speed. Oh, I'm in the high side. High up. Did you see that squirt out right there at the bottom? Watch the very bottom of this throat, right here at the bottom. Did you see it spray? There's 3 of them holes in there. Those got to be clear. Once you know those are clear, you're good. I'm going to go blow this thing off with air. But I'm going to clean all that. This will be new. New needle, new lever, pin, new diaphragms, new screen. It'll all be new. Alright, now we can start putting it back together. Gonna put our high speed in. Go ahead and knock those out. And you're gonna do the same thing with that. Just turn it all the way in until it stops. Don't force it. When you feel it stop, don't crank it. You'll break that off in there. Now, I'm set. This is straight up. So we're going to go half, 1, half, and then let's just a little bit more. That's about where it was. Now let's put our low speed in. If you forget to do what we did at first, where you turn them in to see where it's already at from the factory, just go with a turn and a half. If it won't start there, go to a turn and 3/4, 2 turns, until you get it to start. Alright, this one stopped kind of there, so that's about where it stopped when I turned it all the way in. So I could just do this and bring it to the straight up point because it was here. That would be my 1/4, and then I could go 1 1/2, half, 1 1/2, and then you're going to leave it right there. Now, give her a carburetor kit. It is a RB-149. It comes with everything you need. There's your spring, needle. Even if you have to take that out, your Welch plug, to get to those 3 holes, to clean them out, it comes with that. There's your pin and all your diaphragms. Your needle's right there. It's needle and seat together. The seat's made on the tip of it. Let's open this up. What I like to do is take me a rag and lay all that on there. Spread it out so I can see what I got. That goes with that. That goes with that. That's a perfect little kit. The same diaphragms. I like to use the same. Sometimes they'll have different ones of this in there. One will be rubber, one will be plastic, or whatever this is. It's like a plastic. I don't like to use a rubber one in the place of it. I've had trouble with that before. Some of them it doesn't matter, but some of them it does. I've took these out and put a rubber one in. Couldn't get it to run right. So I was like, the only thing different is that diaphragm. So I got a Carb kit that had the plastic one in it. Put the plastic diaphragm in there. It fired right up, adjusted right out, and it was good to go. But this one's the same. The new one is, it's plastic. I'm not going to treat it like I did that other one, but it's plastic. That was the old one. We can beat it to death, so we're going to put a new one in. Now we're going to change this needle and lever. You need to be real careful with this. There's a spring under there. I need a smaller flat tip. I mean a smaller Phillips. Take that out. I'm going to hold down on that needle right in the center of the pin. Drop that screw on there. And then you can drop this stuff on your rag. Even your little spring. that stayed in there. Drop it down like that. And let's get this thing rebuilt. Alright, so now, got your old pieces, the old spring. I like to replace it all. So, there's a little dip in there. Right there. That your spring fits in. So you want to set that in there first. Just set your spring right in there where it's balanced like that. Can you see that? Now, get your new needle lever. Get your new pin. Your new needle. And that's set and ready to go. And the easiest way to do that is hold your fingers over the end that the needle slides on. Just like that. That way that needle can't fall off. Can you see that? Just like that. And you're gonna come straight down. A little pin fell out. Set that. If you look at the carburetor, on one side the pin needs to be sticking out farther. The other side it needs to be just barely sticking out. So you want to have that fixed the way you need it. And then you're going to set that. The needle doesn't go in the spring. It goes down in that hole. And there's a little tab on that, on the needle lever. When you line that up like that, then you want to bring this finger around and slide it straight down. And just work it a little bit. And then hold it in there with your finger like that. Get your screw, set it in there like this. Get it in the hole. And then tighten that down. Doesn't have to be major tight, but pretty tight to be set at. If you watch it, when you push this lever down, that needle comes up. Ta-da! Now I'm going to put some gaskets on. It's going to be this gasket first. And then this diaphragm, which it goes with the big side. See that big plate? It goes down. The little one goes up. So when you get it on there, it's going to look like that. Just like that. You can't do anything else yet because you got to get this screen out of this. And you can use whatever, a screwdriver or whatever, just pluck that out. Just like that. Ta-da! It's gone. Get your new one. Just be real gentle with it and push it down in there. Got the new one in. To put the gasket the way this one mounts. On here. And then put this diaphragm on there. And then mount this to that. Just like that. Tighten that down. Got our diaphragms in that. And we gotta bolt this on. Just set it on there like that. Grab your 4 screws. Tighten them down. And then voila, we've got a rebuilt carburetor. New diaphragms in it. Use this screwdriver to tighten them up just a little more. Camera turned off. Let's turn it back on. We're ready to mount this thing back to the saw. It's ready to go. Alright. It's ready to go back on. Before I mount this carburetor up, seeing that had water in it, we're going to dump that into a container. That way we can make sure we get this tank good and dry and clean. Make sure we get all the water out of it. Because if we don't, we're going to fill that carburetor back full of water. While I was draining that tank, that gas tank, the fuel filter is broke off. Probably needs replaced. If it's doing what that's doing, yeah, see, that just broke off. I didn't pull that very hard. Got a new piece of fuel line here. The easiest way to do that is different on certain saws. But what I like to do is strip it just a little bit, probably about an inch down, just like that. Split that down the middle, just like that. And then cut one end off at a taper angle, like that. Can you see that? Sometimes, if that don't work, cut it at an angle at on the tip of that to give it more of a point. And then you can fish it down in there. It'll at least be lined up, and then you can take your needle nose and push it the rest of the way down in there. Once you get it to where it's at the fuel line, turn it around, reach inside there, you'll be able to grab it and pull it through till you get enough to get it right here. Once you get it right here, you grab a hold of it, you can just pull it. I had my camera back too far, didn't I? Sorry about that, guys. But once you get it through, what I did is once I put that piece through there, I reached in here and grabbed it and pulled it down. Then let go, reach up high and get it again, pull some more down until you get it through this hole. You don't need a whole lot through, but but you got to pull enough to be able to cut this piece you stripped off. Just like that. Alright, got that cleaned out. We'll slip it back on this fuel line. Just like that. And then that lays in the bottom of the tank. That goes over here and hooks to that side of the carburetor. So we're going to cut that about right there. There we go. Go ahead and put that on. This one on. Now we're going to put our choke lever on. Remember we took that off. Pull the choke, slip that in that little hole, flip that around, and you turn the choke off. And our throttle, we'll hook it in. Now we're ready for the breather cover. I can't put that back on like that. That drives me nuts. I'm gonna clean that up. Got it all cleaned up. Took my choke lever back off too. There's that. That's on. Now we can put this back on. Best way to do that is put that nut in your socket. And be careful, don't cross thread it. It should screw on really easy. Tighten everything up good. Don't ever use a ratchet to tighten them up. You will break them off, strip them, use a nut driver, something of that nature. You can get them tight enough with this. You don't have to put the crank down on them like you would with a ratchet. Go ahead and slip this back on, your on-off switch piece. Screw for that's right here. Tighten that down. And when you get everything together, you want to test it and make sure that it's kicking it on and off and all that. That slides back behind that, just like that, and then it goes up over that triangle piece, and then it just snaps in place. It's all working. You pull the choke, it kicks it on, choke off, that down. Let's tighten this plug up. I may have probably put a new one in it, but I'd assume replace it and the guy not have any trouble as to not replace it, and he get it and the spark plug fell out and then he's having trouble with it again. And there ain't nothing more frustrating over a spark plug to have to run that thing back to the shop, get it fixed, and then the mechanic find out if he just put a new plug in it, it would have been okay. The gas tank's cleaned out, dried out, no more water. That thing is ready to go. I cleaned the air filter. That's as clean as I could get it. And it goes just like that. And then that piece slides in there. And then you got a screw. Screws that. Ta-da! Now we're ready to put the handle back on it. Alright, I got the bigger stuff off of it. It looks better. Now we can just slide this back on. Chris. I forgot to put that on. See? That stuff happens. I'm so excited you got it done. Fixing to put it back together. And then you're like, wait a minute. I got a piece left over. Whoop, whoop. Spin that around. Slide this through there. Actually goes this way, duh. Got a little tab it slides in, a little hole. Ta-da! Test all your connections. Make sure everything's working. And it all's working. It's ready to fire up, but I'm gonna clean all this up. I'm gonna check the bar, sharpen the chain, and make sure the bar ain't bent, and clean all the oil grooves out. And The bar's got some wear on it. I can feel a lip right here. I'll file that off. My bar's got a little bit of a bend to it. You see that right in the middle? If he's cutting some small stuff, he probably won't notice it. But if he gets into a 14-inch, 15-inch tree, he's going to notice it. Alright, I cleaned her up. Cleaned all this out. Cleaned the cover out. Got it cleaned up. Now we're ready to start this thing up. Guys, don't start this saw like I'm about to start it. Alright, there's our sputter. And we're going to go into partial. How easy it should start. Alright guys, that video turned out a lot longer than I expected. It's almost an hour long, but I didn't want to miss anything and showing you how to do it, so sorry it's a long video. Part 3 will be tuning the carburetor screws. It sounded pretty good. It sounds like it can be turned up a little bit, but we'll tune it in and on part 3. But if you like this video and you learned anything on this video, hit that subscribe button down on your right and then hit the little bell to get future notifications. And if you liked it, hit the little like button and share your video with your friends. And we'll see you on part 3.